Okay, here we are. It's the sElect podcast, the podcast that we promised to bring you from the sElect community.
Promise is delivered.
And as our first guests, actually, I'd like to welcome Eric Hagstrom, who's going to be my co-host and also my guide and keep me honest on the podcasting.
I'll keep you honest.
And Jonathan Frappier, both sElect members. Delighted to have you taking part in this. Really love the support you're giving to this the time over. And we can jump right in.
Sure.
And we'll just interview John and make him feel uncomfortable for 10 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know I'd be number one. I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
Like
it
that,
is.
That's
It
like
is.
comic book episode one.
You
like
better deliver.
collector's edition kind of podcast.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. And, well, it could be worse. You could be number two.
Yep. Yeah. The one nobody wants to buy in the store. It's on clearance.
Exactly. So, Jonathan, I don't know you as well as Mark does. Who are you? What's going on? Why are you here?
I heard there's a conference going on, potentially a tech
Really?
conference.
Is
Possibly.
that true? Okay.
Yeah, I heard
It
the
might be.
same. Thought it was a good weekend to come to San Francisco.
Yeah, nice. It's better than being in Boston right now. I heard it's hot there. So.
It's definitely hot in Texas where I'm from, so
Yep.
this is a nice break.
Yep, so I'm here. I actually work full-time. EMC pays my bills.
All right, cool.
In the education services group, but I'm actually here this week as part of the V Brown Bag crew.
Oh,
so
nice.
we're a podcast, really more of a webinar, weekly, actually 3 times a week right now, and every other week a 4th one.
Wow.
We do shows in the U.S. We have a Latin America show, one in the UK, and one in Asia Pacific.
So, for people that don't know what V Brown Bag is, what is it?
So we do technical webinars, podcasts on different topics that are relevant to the virtualization community.
Is it more
So
for
we-
admin type people, or?
It is. So we started as a podcast for certification preparation.
okay.
So kind of, going through a VMware certified professional blueprint, covering the topics. What do you need to know? How do you prepare? How do you study? And that worked great to get us going, but we've morphed into more all of the things. So
Sure.
vSphere, virtualization, automation, DevOps. We just did our first public cloud series on Google Cloud Platform. We'll be doing AWS in the not too distant future. We've got some business topics coming up for IT people to help them learn to speak to the business.
Yeah, it changes it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still doing the certification stuff, so right now we're doing the VCP 6 since that's new and been released, so we're following that blueprint now. We're about halfway through that. And then at some point between now and December, I need to figure out what the 2016 looks like.
Yeah. So, who drives that content? Does that come straight from your users back to you guys as
Yep.
feedback?
That's it's all community driven. So we recruit presenters. Generally, if you say something on Twitter that's interesting, I'm probably going to ask you to present on it. There's a few people that will tweet something, and I just am like, hey, you know what I'm going to ask you
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
So,
Right.
Note to self: do not tweet if you don't want to be asked to participate.
block me or something like that, or don't post on Inside EMC or somewhere where I'm going to.
What's your Twitter handle so that I know not to?
At J Frappier if you want
Okay,
to
nice.
follow me or tweet me something that you're doing that's
Or
interesting.
block
come
you.
on, or block you so I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
see you. Hopefully folks don't retweet what you're saying or reply with, that sounds really cool, and then I'll try to come find it.
Then you're in.
Yep.
You're jumped into the group.
Yep.
Cool.
It's like press ganging.
So you guys have been going for what now? A year?
We're actually 2011
Oh, wow.
or 10, our first podcast.
Nice.
So
Okay.
I got involved about 2011 or so, getting
Okay.
ready for my first VCP test.
Sure.
Came across it on Twitter, and they needed help, so I offered to help. And
Nice. So that's morphed
Okay.
into a full-time job for you, essentially, huh?
if we had enough sponsors, it probably could be with the amount of, it's a lot of work in the background. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things that you don't see.
Sure.
So that's an opportunity for you to solicit some more sponsors out there.
Yes. For those listening that want
Yes.
to participate.
They're what the sponsors are, what help us get to these events. So we go to VMworld, obviously. We've been to a couple OpenStack conferences. We've been to VMon, so our sponsors help us come out and have the community present. So a lot of folks will come to these events, and they might go to some sessions, and they might feel some of them are a little markety.
Okay.
These are community presented, so it's people that are out doing these things. So we had some people on yesterday that are doing things with Python and automation for vSphere.
Gotcha.
And that's a guy that's out there right now doing that at his day job, telling you about it. It's not, company A telling you that their software is awesome. So when you
much
watch
more relevant
much
than
more relevant. You watch the tech talks. We live stream them from the event. So everything that's going on up there today, you can watch. You can catch. We've been trying to upload as quickly as possible to YouTube and get them out there. So everything that we talked about yesterday has been published. So you can go to professionalvmware.com and
Nice.
see all of those.
Now, it's a podcast, so nobody can see, but I'm going to motion to that general direction behind you. You guys have some pretty good signage here. I mean,
Yeah.
Are you all getting a lot more interest as a result of your presence here today?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to say VMware stole the idea for the 15-minute talk, but this year they started doing 15-minute talks, which is what
Nice.
we do. An hour can be a pretty hard pill to swallow
Sure.
for
Yeah.
someone that's never presented before. Do I want to submit a VMworld session? That's an hour to get up there and talk about some topic. I certainly, my first year coming here wouldn't have wanted to try to accomplish that, but you can come here, talk for 15 minutes, very straightforward, very low-key, casual. People do it. Some people do it better than others. It's a great way to prepare.
Yeah.
I did a session yesterday with a friend, and with the goal of being able to turn that into an hour-long session at a future conference.
Sure. Do you look for, since it's coming from the people that are doing this day in, day out, you're obviously looking for those admins to come sit and spend time with you guys. I follow you guys obviously on Twitter as well, like everybody else does. I've seen plenty of folks that are getting involved. What more could you want at this point? How much more activity could you really drive? Does it become overwhelming at some point? Do you get cursed by your own success?
There will be days where I will be. The days where we have a cancellation last minute, and it happens. Life happens, and there's more important things than doing a podcast. But the cancellations generally come when I'm already knee deep in trying to schedule out the next 6 or 7 weeks. So right now it's a nice quiet time for me because we're booked through the end of December.
Yeah.
But at some point I've got to start filling January and February and March, and that's when things start crumbling a little bit. We lose a presenter or two. So
that'll be Mark's challenge moving forward is what the heck do I talk about next?
Yeah. Yep. So last year at VMworld, we had just wrapped up a DevOps series when we were getting here, and we were trying to figure out. Actually, no, I take that back. We finished up a networking series, and Cody Bunch and I were talking. What's the next thing we're going to talk about? And it's like VMware admins, storage admins, infrastructure admins. They need to start learning and embracing infrastructure as code, automation, DevOps, cloud, whatever it happens to be, whatever it is in your organization. So we did this whole DevOps series, which turned out to be huge. And you see, we've got a whole, I'm going to now motion to the other corner that people can't see me motioning to. There's a whole corner of the community hang space here dedicated to DevOps.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if you're out there listening to this and you're clicking around in the vSphere web client, because we're all good VMware admins and we use the web client every day, if you're clicking around in there, stop for a minute, look at what you're doing, and just look at some basic Power CLI that maybe you can write a script to do.
Sure.
If you're creating a virtual machine and you've got to create 10 more virtual machines in the next week, stop clicking around in the web client, start getting comfortable with code. It's very easy to get started with something like Power CLI. It's well documented. There's a lot of community examples out there. Start coding now. It's code. Power CLI one-line script is code.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you need to code your entire data center
Right.
on day one. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a long time for you, to get comfortable with automation, identify all the tasks, test all the things you need to do, but look at some of the simple things that you can write 1 or 2 lines of Power CLI or PowerShell for. It doesn't even have to be infrastructure related. There was a company I was at, I came into as a director of IT, and the IT staff was complaining that they just didn't have enough time in their day to do everything that was being asked of them to do. Plus, by the way, we had to move our office and our data center in like 60 days. And first thing I could do was sit back and watch and see what was going on. And come to find out, we had such a large remote staff that they weren't getting notifications on their passwords expire. So we would literally burn between 2 people about 4 or 5 days a month, every 2 months on resetting passwords. Guess what? I wrote a script that emailed everybody every day You work for EMC, you get them from IT, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have that before we did that. We freed up 5 days in a month.
Wow.
Between two people. It doesn't have to be complex, but you can start automating the things that are taking the time out of your day. Look in your ticketing system, whatever it happens to be, and just find that thing that's like, wow, we did that a lot of times last month. Start automating that, and now you've freed up to do more important
Is
things.
that something you think managers should be looking at? I mean, if I have a team of guys that are working and they're busting their ass doing the same thing over and over and over again, can't I be the one that points this out?
Absolutely. You can, if it's not coming from your manager, though, as an admin, as an engineer, an architect, whatever it is that your job is, don't be afraid to manage your manager, because there's also, so I'm more hands-on now. I've been in IT manager roles, and I've been in weeks of meetings about company has to do this and company has to transform that, and budget meeting this and budget meeting that. And I might go a few weeks and not see something or catch something. So don't be afraid to manage up and bring things up to your manager. Be like, listen, we're doing this a lot. I need you to buffer me for 2 or 3 days so I can write this script to do it. Yeah. And you might have a manager that's not going to be receptive to that, and that's okay. Just get your LinkedIn profile updated. But I had the last company I was at, my manager was very good about that. That if we saw something that we felt was a time sink for us, I could go to her and say, Kayla, I need time to sit down and really do this and get this out of the way, because this is what it's going to provide to us.
Sure.
It might take us longer to do it the first time now, coding it, but in time it's going to save us a bunch of time.
Yeah. And
she would go out of her way to keep things from getting to me that would distract me from that task,
right?
So that I could automate it and we could go do cooler stuff.
Yeah.
That was more relevant to the business.
I like it. DevOps obviously is a big push. I mean, it's coming from everywhere I turn now.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm behind the curve a little bit. I think that advice is good. Just one line is all it takes to get you going. A little CLI automation is coding.
Yep.
So it certainly takes the intimidation factor out of it. Just keep it simple, do something simple and build up from it.
Yep.
I like it. So
Nice.
very nice. So another thing I'd like to ask Jonathan, and you can chime in as well, Eric, is regarding sElect. Obviously, we can give an appraisal of the mad equipment we have in front of us.
It's pretty impressive.
It is. But what's your assessment of how sElect is? And other, these social community programs like Cisco Champions, vExpert, do you see that as a sort of a benefit to you, or is it a curse, or is there some way where it is a benefit and then becomes a curse?
No, I can't say that I've found it to be a curse yet for any of them, sElect or vExpert or Cisco Champions. Even as sElect, just as an example, so I work on training for Enterprise Hybrid Cloud, Federation Enterprise Hybrid Cloud, and you got me content through sElect that I've not gotten from the business unit yet for the next version of training that we need to write. So there were things I was seeing when we did, we had an sElect briefing a few weeks ago, and I was seeing things for the first time that I'm going to need to do in a month or two. So you're going to get early access to information. You're going to be presented with opportunities. You're going to be able to learn new things. Rob from Micron?
Yeah.
Did a session for us a little while ago.
Yeah.
It really did a deep dive into flash storage and how it's architected and what it's made out of. And, we kind of gloss over the deep dive stuff of that in today's technology world for just getting it done, but to understand how those things work is valuable. And
it was huge for me. My team came back to me. I'm with a partner now, and immediately as soon as that news hit, when Intel announced, they're all looking to me as the tech guy in the room, like, what does this mean to us? Like, well, let me tell you a little bit about what I've learned as a result of listening to Rob going on about it. So I think from my perspective, I get a little disconnected sometime from the business.
Right.
And having access to these communities keeps me kind of ingrained in the meat. And that's where I find the most value, is being able to have, number one, the technology, but then the second thing is the relationships.
Right.
Knowing you guys, when I walk into a conference and being able to say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
It may be 4 times a year that we actually get to see each other. And granted, it's usually with multiple beers inside of us, but nonetheless, it's a community, and I like that aspect of it the most, I think, is the chance to really run things against each other.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. So, we don't have to torture you anymore if we can wrap this up. But I do appreciate. I have to say that from the community aspect, I do appreciate members like yourself for contributing, being adventurous like this, and it's nice to see that you're getting something back. Because we do get a lot of benefit. I mean, EMC does get a lot of benefit out of you guys, but it's nice to see you're getting a return on it. So
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks for coming out.
Superb, and thanks for being on the premier podcast for sElect.
We'll have to
Congratulations.
do a nice comic book style cover to post with the podcast somewhere.
Awesome.
I've got my social champion shirt back in the room. Maybe we can get me like busting out of that or something and get
Yes.
the logo on it.
Awesome.
Nice.
That is a plan.
Awesome. Thank you
All
guys
right.
for having me.
Thank you. And we'll wrap it up there. We will obviously have more to come, and
Surely.
we will be editing this, so